Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. Happy New Year! I'm recording this in the morning, January the 1st. It's another grey day outside, but all is bright and fun in my sewing room. Cheers! I made myself a Yorkshire tea, caramelised biscuit brew, and I always put a bit of maple syrup in that, and it's lovely. It's like you've taken some cookies and you've dipped them in your tea. And yeah, it's like cookies and tea rolled all into one. I'm sure that's what Yorkshire tea meant it for it to be when they invented it. So yay. You will have seen a little bit of what I'm working on in the first few minutes of this video, because I did a bit of patchwork a few days ago, and I've been working on a slow stitch scroll again this week. And I was really tickled pink by the slow stitched scroll and the fact that it reminded me of the thumbnail I'm going to be using, because with the lead up to Christmas all being over and done with, the last blog thumbnail I used was a wintry scene, just sort of houses on the snow, and I thought it was really pretty, and I put some snowflakes over it. And I thought I'll keep that going, at least for January. I think I'll just use the same template because it's pretty. And so when I did the slow stitching, maybe I should call it snow stitching because it's appropriate. So when I started this slow stitching scroll, I felt like it really fitted the theme so well. I think it's been a few days since I did that clip about the slow stitching, and I have done quite a bit of running stitch on it since then. Decided to keep this one really simple. And I may still add a little bit of more color or maybe something dimensional, but at the moment, keeping it really, really simple. So as of today, I have added lines of slow stitching, nearly said snow stitching again, in 2 shades of green, 2 shades of blue, a grey and a white. And all I have to do is maybe 2 more lines of white in the middle. I used a piece of blue felt, which felt wintry to me, on the back instead of batting. Felt is quite a lot harder to sew through, I find, than batting. It's much more dense. And where I had a couple of layers of quilting cotton over the top, I was having a bit of a struggle doing multiple stitches in one go. And after the first couple of sessions, I was getting a hole in my finger. So I had to bust out the thimble. I'm not crazy about using a thimble. I don't know about you, but I find it makes me feel really clumsy. And my stitches aren't as neat. But it was essential for my fingers' health. I have one of these old-fashioned clothespins put by for when I roll it up. It's got a needle in it right now, so I can't roll it up, but I'll just do a quick demo. So with that slit on the end, it's going to go over there like that and roll up like this. And I will probably use my acrylics just to paint the top of that, just to look pretty in some way. I made a really, really big effort to keep the back tidy this time. My knots are super tiny and neat, and I'm not going to be backing this with anything, and I'm not going to be putting blanket stitch around the edge because I find that a little tedious. And I'm doing this for my own enjoyment, and so I shouldn't have to force myself to do something I don't want to do, right? So that is a work in progress. It doesn't have much left to do on it, I don't think, depending on what I decide to add. Now I'm thinking seed beads. So there's obviously some more work to happen on that. So we'll pop it back in its little gnome bag and put it aside. The other thing I was doing, which you will have seen me do in the intro there, is this piece of patchwork. Every single square is different. There are 81 of them, 9 by 9, and it barely made a dent in the bag of 2-inch squares. And I used the method where you draw a grid onto some light interfacing and then lay your squares down, and then you sew your seams. You lay the squares down, you iron it so they're all in place, and then you fold it along each intersection and do the sewing one way and then all the sewing the other way. So it's a really good way of getting neat patchwork, especially when you're using lots of tiny pieces and you want to keep your seam allowance consistent. I switched out my machine foot for a 1/4-inch foot to keep it accurate as well. So I'm very pleased with this little bit of fabric. It's incredibly tidy. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I have a couple of ideas. There was a bag or pouch that Kate, at the last time we housemade, quite some time ago, and I wasn't able to find the video where she made it, but she made a kind of roll-up pouch for, say, sewing accessories or whatever. And I think she just had a square and she folded 3 of the corners to the middle. I think what she did is she backed it first, so it was a nice, neat, finished piece of fabric. And then she folded 3 corners to the middle and sewed the diagonals. And then for the other flap, it looked like an envelope. And then for the 4th side, she just maybe put some sort of ribbon or cord on it so that it could just roll up or fold down and do up. So it's hard to do this while I'm sitting here, but basically you're folding this in, and this up. So it's like an envelope. And then you sew down these bits, and then this can either fold down and button shut, or you can actually like roll it up and then wrap the tie around. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do about the back of it. I didn't want to use a chunk of good quilting cotton that was, I wanted to save for something bigger. So when I came downstairs just now, I realized that I had a couple of bits of crumb block finished. So all of these little chunks are made from my really small uneven scraps, and I made those not long ago. And so rather than use something that's a nice piece of yardage, I think I'm just going to do a bunch more crumb block type stuff, big enough to back this, and then I'll just put them right sides together, sew most of the way around, flip it out, and then I'll figure out what to do with it. I do have a nice square basket. Here it is. I do have this nice square basket, which it would fit in really nicely as just a basket liner. So that's a possibility as well. But as I say, I haven't decided on that yet. But the £6 cushion cover, this is what I made the crumb blocks for. This was my crumb block cushion cover. I have to say that slowly. This is holding all my scraps, so I could easily just raid this and lighten it by a few grams, and yeah, make some more crumb fabric, which is very enjoyable, I have to say. And then there was one other little thing I did make this week. I realized I still had some of this Lion Brand Respun, which is this recycled polyester. In fact, I have quite a lot of it because I only made a beanie out of it, and there's still a lot left. It's a big skein. I think it's 10 ounces or 284 grams or 658 yards or 602 meters. And I know I said in the last vlog that Michaels didn't have it anymore, but they do. And I'm still thinking this would make a lovely jersey or Guernsey. So seeing as I'm currently owed 6 balls of yarn in my fitness challenge, coming up to 7 balls of yarn tomorrow. I think that this probably is something I need to buy more of, but maybe in either they have a dark denim blue and they have a brighter turquoise. There's about 12 shades of it and they're all lovely, so I'm not really sure. But I think it would be awesome to knit myself a proper jersey, like a fisherman's jersey out of it. That would be nice. And I almost forgot to show you what I made with this. It's a very small hairband or headband. I didn't use a pattern, I just crocheted some chains which seemed like they were long enough, and then I did a couple of rows and some short rows and did a middle one that was puff stitches and then a few more rows. So with the short rows it ended up being skinnier on this back part and wider at the top of the head part. But yeah, I'm not sure about it. It gave me something to do with my hands, but I'm not sure about it. It was funny actually this morning because I wanted to get some new toothbrushes out because it's the beginning of the year and I felt like it was time to toss the old toothbrushes that I keep in my bathroom, one of which is for brushing my retainers every morning. I have a separate one for my retainers and a separate, and then another one I use for my teeth for interim brushings between using the electric one. So I tossed the two out and I was raiding the cupboard to find some more. And I found a hairband I had completely forgotten about that was elasticated at the bottom and fabric and knots at the top with a couple of little bits that stick out. And I put it on because when I made it, my hair was really short. And I put it on, I was like, oh, that's not so bad. It kind of got that 40s vibe, right? 1940s vibe. And I thought, okay, that's okay. Maybe if I made another one, but with a little bit less of a bow at the top, maybe a little bit more low profile, I wouldn't mind that. I also dug out a whole bunch of stuff back there that I had that was old bracelets and things like that. I found all sorts of, let's face it, crap back there in my cupboard in my bathroom that I had forgotten I had. So I sorted out the earrings and things and hung them up on my little earring rack, and I brought down some of the stuff that I might either toss or repurpose into something else. So that's that so far. Ideally, what I'd like to do today is get all my yarn out, do a stash flash, decide whether I'm going to be keeping all that yarn for the foreseeable future, and if not, what I'm going to be doing with it. So that's coming up next. As you may have noticed, I'm having a onesie day today. This is my buffalo plaid onesie that I sewed myself years ago. And every now and again, in the winter, all I want to do is put it on and just stay home and wear pajamas. And this is one of those days. When it comes to going walking, I could keep it on and just put my coat on top. Or I could go out after dark when it won't matter. Maybe I can convince Mr. Stitches that we can't go out walking till after dinner because they don't want to get dressed in day clothes. I think that's a good plan. All right, I'm going to get on with something else now. A little while later, I built my crumb block piece to go on the back of the patchwork. I trimmed my top layer to 13.5, so I had to trim my crumb block piece to 13.5, and then I put them right sides together, sewed most of the way around, and left a little gap for turning. And I turned it right side out and pressed it and everything, which reminds me my iron's still on, so I'm just going to switch it off because it doesn't have an auto shut off, this little tiny one. It's the only thing it doesn't have that I'd like it to have. Anyway, so I know earlier I said that there were two options, that I could maybe make a basket liner or an envelope bag, but I thought of something else, but it was a bit late. Not entirely late. I thought I could have made it into a cushion, but it was too late to put a cushion form in because I'd already sewn most of the way around it and turned it through, and the gap was only like this much. There's no way you're going to put a pillow form or a cushion form through that gap. But I could have stuffed it with some of my batting scraps. And I thought, do I want a scrap cushion? Does anyone in my life need a scrap cushion? Probably not. So I ended up just top stitching around and leaving it as a flat item because it looks really pretty in that basket, which I'll just go grab. So here's the finished thing. The top stitching is terrible. I put my walking foot on for the top stitching part, but it still had a few problems jumping over all those thick seam allowances. But I'm not going to worry about it because it's not a big deal. Excuse me. So that's the front side. Still has some threads hanging off it. Still a few seams where there's a little thread poking out here and there, and I don't think I've picked them all off yet. And then the crumb block back is there. So that used a tiny amount more fabric out of the scrap pillow. And if I put it in here, in this little basket, it looks really pretty. I think I may end up using this in my sewing room, or I will save this to use at the festival that I'm probably going to be volunteering at again this year. The last few years I've volunteered at a festival every September, and I always have a stash of baskets in my sewing room because I help with the silent auction. I say I help with it. The last couple of years I've organised it. Anyway, the baskets always need something pretty inside before you put some sort of product that's been donated into it or into them. So I think what I may do is I will leave that in there. It looks even nicer if you put it that way around. I will leave that in there and put it aside. And that is actually a really good possible long-term project for the next 8 months to maybe plan on making scrap liners for all of the baskets that I have. I have a lot, but then I have a lot of scraps too. So that works. All right, now it's time to do a little bit of pulling out of the yarn stash. I think I should keep this quilt on the floor. My carpet is so boring, and this quilt has so much sentimental value. I made it 23 years ago out of a whole ton of scraps, and it has been used and used and used It was a beach quilt. My kids spent a lot of time on and under this quilt, and I have patched it, and it's still falling apart, but I don't want to get rid of it ever. I thought it would be a good base for my stash flash today. So at the beginning of the year 2025, I decided to try and stash down as much as possible, and I was pretty successful. I made a lot of things that used up a lot of yarn, including that blanket on the armchair there. So it's a very small stash, in my opinion. Other people might not agree, but it's all relative, isn't it? This whole pile of Heartland, Lion Brand Heartland, currently is being used for a granny square project. So that one is actively being used, and that is awesome. And then we have this half of this Karen anniversary cake, which is definitely going to get used for something fun. And then I have some of the smaller pieces in the jar there. I have a couple of granny squares there that I made from that Red Heart all-in-one granny square yarn, which would be good to use up too. This pile here is the frog it and forget it pile. This 10-stitch twist blanket has been languishing for so long, and I think I'm going to actually frog it, and I'm going to put all this yarn in a bag and send it off to the thrift store. It's thin and I'm just not getting it done. These two Lion Brand yarns here and here don't feel nice. Don't want to keep them. This is some t-shirt yarn that I made. Haven't used it. It can go. This is some yarn I dyed. And again, I've used a bit, but it's been hanging around for years. It's going to go. So let's have a closer up look at some of this stuff. All right, so this one was the one I used for the shawl that I made not long ago. Definitely keeping that. And I've got a little bit of Red Heart Super Saver in that white colour as well. Always useful to have. Quite a lot of the Lion Brand respun skein left. Definitely keeping that. A little pile of Brava worsted. I think it's all Knit Picks Brava anyway. I don't think I mixed anything else in there. So that's all the colours from all the little skeins I got quite a long time ago, but this is useful. I think I might plan a scrap project to get that all used up ASAP. It's so good to get the stuff out and actually look at what you've got so that you know you need to use it. This is some sock yarn I bought. I think I bought it at Thread and Paper in Salmon Arm a couple of years ago. And I started making a festoon shawl by Dora Does, and it's so thin. And the hook was so small, and it was fiddly, and I gave up and frogged it. So I might keep this, or I might maybe multi-strand it to make something. I could probably hold 2 strands together and make a beanie or something. I might try that, and if that fails, that could go in the giveaway box too. I have this lovely Hobie yarn, which is a Christmassy one that I've had again for a few years now. Because it's so thin, I haven't used it. So cute though. Don't want to get rid of that one. This is some leftover something or other. And this is some more leftover something or other. So that won't go to waste. All these little baggies here are my color coordinated cottons. I keep these in case I ever want to make amigurumi. And I do that every now and again. So they can stay because they're pretty useful. And then I've got a little bit of Drops Muscat here, which I bought from a yarn shop a long, long time ago. and barely used. But I think what I might do is I might just add this to the amigurumi bags. I think it's DK weight. It can go in with that pile, and I'll have an amigurumi project bag again, so that hopefully I can get it done. Trouble with those is they don't use a lot of yarn. These two things. Now I looked in my Ravelry stash, and this Drops Paris and the Drops Saffron I bought 5 years ago. And the plan was to dye them, and I have dyed some of the balls of yarn, but I still have these left, a lot of it. So there's a good possibility I might give these away or sell them on Facebook Marketplace or something. Maybe sell them, try and get a little bit of money for them. I don't know if anyone will want them, but I can try. This pile in the middle is from my sweater that I made with the crazy pattern on the front. I've got some yellow, turquoise, pink, purple, orange, and that is enough to make a project of some kind. So that will definitely not go to waste. It's bulky yarn. I love bulky yarn. I'm so lazy. When I knit and crochet, I like things to be finished fast. These little guys here, the multicolored ones, the loops and threads, impeccable multis, which I also used in conjunction with this stuff to make the shawl. It was called the New Page shawl. I'm just having to crawl over my yarn here. This may well be some of the Drops Saffron. I know I dyed this yarn, so I think that might be the Drops Saffron, and I dyed it. I haven't used it. This is possibly the Drops Paris, which I don't like the colours in, so I'm going to put that in the giveaway pile. I have some dishcloth cotton, dishcloth scrubby. I have a ball of banana fibre from a little very floppy basket that I frogged, and I just wound that back up into a ball. I'm going to have to seriously consider whether I want to keep that. These blue ones I'm using as dishcloth cotton. They also were the dyed Drops Paris, I think. I dyed those with RIT. I did a good job on that one. That's kind of pretty. I don't want to give that one away because it came out well. I can't remember what this is. Maybe Barocco Modern Cotton, perhaps? Just a random ball. I think I'll probably give that away. And some, I think, bamboo pop. I did use a ball of the, well, that little ball there is what's left from the shawl that I made early in 2025. I can't say this year anymore, can I? It's last year now. Can't remember what it was called, but it was a lace knitted scarf. So I'm sure I will get around to using that eventually. I think a friend gave me that a long time ago. So that's it. That's the stash. It's pretty manageable. I'm definitely going to weed out those few things and earmark some yarn for certain projects. I think it would probably be a good idea to write that on my whiteboard so that I don't forget. I'll do that as I put it all away again. And because I always forget at least one thing when I do these stash flashes, here's the thing that was still lurking up in the living room. This is the Loops and Threads Delicate DK, and it is the Snowfall Slipper Socks pattern. And look at this. I have made no progress on this for weeks. Terrible, hey? But hey, it's still winter. I still need slipper socks. There's still time to get them finished before summer. As long as I can get over the fact they're done with skinny crochet hooks. So I'm absolutely cooking now in this fleece. Ah dear. I really shouldn't be getting overheated because my rosacea is at full blast right now and my skin is a mess, and flushing will make it even worse. I have a bruise. I don't know if you noticed, I got a bruise under my mouth as well. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning after a night wearing my retainers, I have a mysterious bruise right there. So I don't know if I'm chewing my lip in the night or what, but it's been there since yesterday and it looks terrible. So hopefully you didn't notice it. And if you did, it's all right. I didn't get punched in the mouth by anybody. So everything's packed away neatly now. I've got a couple of things up there. I've got all of the Heartland back in its project bag. I've got the slipper socks packed back away. I've got the white cotton yarn listed on Marketplace now. I've got all the amigurumi yarn back in there, and I have dishcloth and other cotton in this one. I absolutely love this bag. This was another of those projects where you do the squares on the interfacing backing, like I did with this other one I made today. And I just love the colors in that, the blues and the oranges. They just look amazingly wonderful. And then over there with that cube has got all the acrylics in that I have to use up. And then this little basket that I put the pretty little cloth in today, it has the miscellaneous stuff in it. So that's awesome. And then the cardboard box over there on the floor has the stuff that I am going to send to the thrift shop. So I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed being with me as I sorted out my yarn and made a couple of fun things. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful 2026. I hope life is good to you and you get lots of crafting done too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye for now.